Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
It's a great pleasure for me, such a great pleasure for me to introduce to you the principal conductor of the Miami City Ballet. Now, if you have never heard or been to the Miami City Ballet, boy, you are up for the best performance of any ballet company. I've lived here in Miami most of my life. I have always wanted to have a major ballet, but who could have believed that the Miami City Ballet would become such an international success? But I will say this, I've gone to a lot of performances of ballet and other things, but if they don't have an orchestra, it's just not the same. Tape music doesn't do it. So here we have Gary Sheldon, who is returning for his 5th season as principal conductor of the Miami City Ballet. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thanks, Anita. It's always great to talk to a fan.
I am a fan. And I always wonder, you know, how this all works and how do you get together with the ballet and with the, you know, ballet dancers and how do you know what they're going to do? And I mean, you have to read the script and just take us through the whole thing.
Well, it's funny you use the term script. I've never heard of it that way, but the musical score composed by the composers is our script. And even more importantly, the script from which the choreographers create the mood and the story and the spirit of the ballets that they do. And so we all start with the music. Balanchine starts with the music. I, as conductor, start with it. The dancers start with it. And we'll meet in the studio literally months before a production opens for the dancers to learn the ballet, for myself to listen in and look in as the repetitors come to us, or choreographers, if they're still with us, come to work with the dancers. It's a slow, intensive, and always rewarding process up front to get to work with these repetitors or choreographers who come to us.
So, Gary,
over the course of the months, yes.
So when you first decided what you wanted to do with your life, how did you know you wanted to be a conductor? Are you a musician?
Well, yes, I played piano, percussion, violin, flute for many years, and did symphony for years, opera for a number of years, and for the last, 24 or 5 years, I've been focusing on ballet, starting with Ballet Met in Columbus, Ohio, then on to the San Francisco Ballet as their principal guest conductor, and then 6 seasons ago, Eddie Villela called me to be the principal conductor here, and it's been just a delight to work with Lourdes Lopez, especially in this 30th season for our company.
Right. Well, Edward certainly was the pioneer with this. He was fantastic. And I know I've spoken with Lourdes on the show also, and you attract the best. But the fact that you are here doing this. So tell me a little bit about about your musicians and how do you choose the musicians? Because you don't have a lot of, just go back and tell me how many how many members of your orchestra are there?
Yes, we have a base of 50 players. Now, depending on the musical score, there may be a few less or a few more. For example, the upcoming ballet Year of the Rabbit is just for the string section, so we'll have just 30 strings in the pit for that. Whereas, say, Bourrée Fantasque on the same program uses the entire orchestra of 50. As for the musicians themselves, well, most are certainly South Florida-based. We have a number of professors from UM and other fine music schools in the area, a New World School of the Arts, a lot of professional performing musicians. They work with the Florida Grand Opera, Palm Beach Symphony, you name it. And then occasionally we'll bring some musicians from out of town, such as from the Naples Philharmonic or even the Atlanta Ballet Orchestra, to fill in. So it's a very talented group of musicians I'm lucky enough to work with.
So actually then they perform with other groups. This is
They do. While we have a full season that runs from, October through April this year, there are off weeks where the musicians are able to play other places. And, in an effort to support their careers, we certainly allow for musicians to work out a schedule that works for us, but works for them as hardworking itinerant musicians.
I see the upcoming Peter Martin's Barber Violin Concerto. That must be very exciting.
It is exciting, and credit to Lourdes for yet again bringing in a trio of incredible repetitors, including Peter Martins himself, the choreographer, to help to stage the ballet several weeks ago. Peter and his son Nihilus were with us, and well, to get it from the horse's mouth, there's nothing like it. It's a compelling ballet that Peter created, the Barber Violin Concerto. It involves just two couples, but in some 20-25 minutes, they seem to span an incredible emotional spectrum of passion and whimsy and everything in between. It's a great ballet.
So now that we've covered some of that, I want you to know about your exercise. Do you have to do exercise to be able to keep your arms up the way you keep them up during a whole performance?
I have to do exercise to keep up with two 9-year-old twins I have.
Sure.
Maybe that's why I'm conducting. But well, you know, it's funny you mention it, because if I don't keep up with my aerobic exercises the weeks I'm not conducting, then I find I'm not quite in the shape I need to be when I am conducting. So I do exercise in that way, but it's more stretching that I do. Mine are upper body stretches, unlike the dancers focus on lower body stretches and so on.
Have you, when you go to other cities with the ballet, I know you've been to Europe, do you bring the orchestra?
No, our orchestra doesn't come. We work with other orchestras. In Paris, we worked with a very fine orchestra there. And for our upcoming tour, very exciting, I work with the New York City Ballet Orchestra at the Koch Theater coming up in April for our 2 programs there. And 7 performances, but 2 different programs. Then we're on to Chicago. I work with the Chicago Philharmonic. And then in Minnesota, it's an orchestra of musicians from different orchestras there. I know the Minnesota Opera Orchestra provides a number of players, but the ballet orchestra also uses musicians from the whole area there.
Well, I was just thinking about that, though. When you go and you don't know the performers, the musicians, are you just kind of imagining what they should do? And, of course, they're all professionals, but having your own group must be a lot easier.
Well, your own group of people, you're familiar with each other, and you get a running start once you start looking at the music. With groups that I don't know, it's a combination of my need to impart tempos and the agenda of the choreographer and the artistic director and the needs of the dancers, combined with the talents I have with the musicians at hand. Sometimes I'll balance the sound of the orchestra in a different way to flatter the sound of the orchestra the best I can. The dancers are inspired by great music making, and so that's key to what I do.
Have you ever been a ballet dancer?
No, but my wife danced with San Francisco Ballet for many years, and it's something that we continue to share. She's my greatest supporter, fan, and critic, and I need all 3.
I'm sure. And the one thing that I've been noticing lately is the Miami City Ballet has been attracting a younger audience.
It's really wonderful to see, isn't it? Lourdes' programming is so varied, so fun, so engaging. Premieres of West Side Story in the few years she's been here. Upcoming A Midsummer Night's Dream, which has a kind of a South Florida setting and costuming and drama element to it. She's thinking out of the box, both in terms of the programming. It's challenging to the dancers. It's challenging to the musicians, and as you said, Anita, it's engaging more of the community. So it's just an exciting time for the Miami City Ballet.
It is. My guest is Gary Sheldon. He's the principal conductor of the Miami City Ballet, and he's returning for his 5th season as principal conductor. The tickets are on sale now for the 2nd repertory program of the 30th anniversary season, featuring Twyla Tharp's celebrated work in the Upper Room, George Balanchine's La Source, and the company premiere of Peter Martins' Barber Violin Concerto, appearing January the 29th to the 31st at the Kravis Center in West Palm Beach. That's where I'm going to be able to see this. I just can't wait. So if you want tickets, call the Miami City Ballet box office at 877-929-7010. That's 877-929-7010. And you can also go online to see so much. When you go online, you'll see previous ballets, you'll see what's coming up, and you go to MiamiCityBallet.org, MiamiCityBallet.org. We really hope that you will participate in some way. You can become a volunteer. You can actually, they have children's programs. I'd like to talk to you about that. I know that as a conductor, that's not really your specialty because, of course, you have to deal with the music, but it must be a thrill, like with the Nutcracker, to see the little children.
Well, of course it is. And the brilliance of Balanchine was to involve so many children on stage that it becomes a real inspiration to the kids in the audience, either to follow through ballet as future dancers or just arts lovers, ballet lovers. It's a beautiful production.
I wanted to comment on that, and the Nutcracker, of course, with the Miami City Ballet Orchestra, was superb. I did go to the Moscow Ballet that came in, and I saw their Nutcracker, but that was canned music. Wasn't the same.
Well, just to be completely correct about this, our orchestra does play, I should say. We do it with the Naples Philharmonic, but of late we have been doing it with tape recording and selling out the houses, I understand.
Oh, you are? Okay. I know.
Yeah,
and cost. Prices, that's what costs so much, doesn't it, to bring in an orchestra?
It does, but, I thank Lourdes and previously Edward for championing the orchestra for all of the other programs we're doing. And there's no other company I've worked with, except in San Francisco, where the orchestra has played for all of the rep programs. It's quite something that they and the audience has supported us on that. Usually
I hear a patron's name before, thanking them for the orchestra, because it's very expensive to do that, but it
always
does. Yeah.
And of course, you'll hear a different patron, a different board member, a different name at every performance. There are so many generous people who have stepped up and supported what we do. We're very grateful.
Have you had any dealings with Toby Jansen?
Well, I know Toby well and see her a lot at backstage or at different receptions. We just had our beautiful ballet ball celebrating the 30th of the company, and of course, Toby was front and center as the guiding light who invited Edward Villela some 31 years ago to come to Miami to create the company.
Can you imagine that? I mean, that was like, you're going to do what? No way. No, but she always was a forward thinker, and she's a wonderful woman. I haven't seen her for a while, but it's been a pleasure. You know that we don't even have, as you probably know, we don't have a Florida Philharmonic. We did have one, and then it fell apart, and they can't even get it together. Can you believe that?
I'm so sorry to see that. I had studied with Joseph Silverstein, the conductor, up at Tanglewood, and so enjoyed hearing his performances when I came down here to visit parents and grandparents in years past. Happily for us at the Miami City Ballet Orchestra, I should add that some of our musicians are former members of the Florida Philharmonic, so they're still here, and part of our great sound is due to these players who chose to remain in the area.
Yeah, it's very sad to have this kind of wealth and culture here and not to have our own orchestra. I wish I had a lot of money because I'd sure fund it. It's so necessary, but we're glad at least you're doing this, Gary, and I know that you're enjoying it. Can we talk a little bit about Twyla Tharp's work? It's always funny, isn't it?
Well, it's always curious. But in a way that ultimately is winning and triumphant. In the Upper Room was written, music was written by Philip Glass. Twyla commissioned Philip Glass to write the work in 1986. And his style of music is what's called minimalism. At first, it's disarmingly simple. There's a very simplicity, elemental sound to the themes that nothing particularly challenging to the ear, but through repetition, the simple ideas in the music grow to these gigantic climaxes and crescendos with even elements of jazz and rock and roll. And there's a kind of hypnotic effect which Twyla mirrors in the movement of the dance. It's powerful, engaging, and audiences are always on their feet. I brought my children to see it just last weekend at Broward, and they loved it. It's one of those works that seems to engage and appeal to all tastes and all ages, which I can't say for all ballets, but this one and the Nutcracker, some other works just have that way of connecting with us, connecting with all of us.
Yes, and the costuming that she uses. In fact, I thought I was going to feature one of them. I'm going to feature something of Miami City Ballet in our magazine. We have a magazine called BOOMER Times, and I do try often to put on the cover something from the ballet. There's it's a lot to choose from, and I always hope that...
A lot to choose from. Well, there are some women with point shoes, but you've got the bombers and the stompers and running shoe wearing three couples. A lot to look at. She may ask more questions than what she answers, but we really don't matter. It doesn't matter to us in the end. It's just so much fun and an incredible tour de force for the dancers. Our dancers dance the work brilliantly.
Yeah. The Latin influence, which I know Edward brought a lot of that, because I think you have a lot of Latin dancers. I've always loved what they do down there, and I think it's brought a lot of the population, the Hispanic population, to the ballet.
I think you're right about that. I know we have, 7 dancers from Brazil, several from Cuba. Of course, Lourdes Lopez was born in Cuba, but from other countries as well. It's an international company, from performers to those who support us, and it's exciting to be a part of it right now in the 30th season.
And I've always been astonished at all the male dancers that you're able to attract. For a long time, that was not easy.
It's funny you mention that, because as I go to guest conduct companies, one of the first things I notice, I take notice of, are the male dancers, because, so much of the focus in choreography, Balanchine said that ballet is woman. The focus is the women, but the companies that have the strong males, the strong partnering, male soloists, are the companies that I find have had the most to offer. And our men certainly stand out for their wonderful technique, but even more their spirit, which crosses over the footlights. It's a joy to work with all of them.
Well, one thing from talking with you, I see you have great spirit and great knowledge. They are so lucky to have found you.
Oh, thank you. It's just the right place in my life. Janet and I were living in San Francisco for some 20 years, where I met and married her. As I mentioned, she had danced with San Francisco Ballet as a member of their ballet school for some 15, 16 years. But when Edward called, this seemed like to be the right place. The company was on the move back then, and under Lourdes, it's hit light speed now. And this is just a thrilling time to be here. I do hope that folks will come out, especially those who have not seen the ballet before. Ballet is for everyone. You will hear music, you will see dances that you will connect with. You don't have to be an aficionado, but for those who are, they'll see dancing here as fine as any place in the world.
Absolutely. We're so proud of having the Miami City Ballet here, and I love what you say about that. And the children, for so long here, especially in Palm Beach County, we saw all the white hair. I mean, and I happen to be a gerontologist, and I love older people, but we said, okay, what's going to happen when they pass away? We need more young children. And you have really figured out how to bring them there. In fact, a lot of them, the little girls come all dressed up in little tutus, or they come in their little ballet. And
they do. It's adorable to see. There's no question that the ballet crowd, from tuxedos to blue jeans and everything in between, is the most diverse crowd, age-wise and style-wise.
I always laugh when a man, I'll say, are you going to ballet? He looks at me, ballet? I'll say, listen, if you haven't been to the ballet, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think for my husband and myself, I think of all the art forms, ballet is our favorite, absolutely our favorite. It's funny. I had always thought I wanted to be a ballet dancer. Of course, your wife is... she wouldn't even appreciate this. But I always wanted to be. My mother made me play piano. So I said, okay, as I grew older, and I guess it was, I was in my 70s, I said, I'm going to go and start to take ballet. I'll take a class, right? Well, unfortunately, they put me in the I guess, advanced class. And after 5 minutes, I said, that's it. I can't be a ballet dancer.
I'm so glad that you enjoy our company. It sounds like you attend all our performances.
I do. I try to do that.
Programs.
Right. And, a lot of times when I hear music, I know if that's music for a ballet or if it's just playing classical music. There's something about people dancing to the music.
Well, and the dancers also tell me, I should say they always tell me, that the music inspires them. And while I try and be as consistent as I can in my interpretations and tempos of the music so they can depend on us, I, too, the musicians, too, are human beings, and every day is a little different than the last day. And so there's something fresh, there's something new in the music each time, and that helps bring the ballets to life through what the dancers hear in the music. So they've always said kind words to me about how lucky they are to dance with the music and how well we do it. And it's just a joy. I love the collaboration of music and movement. Love working with dancers.
Gary, have you known any composers of ballet music?
Well, I studied with Leonard Bernstein.
Did you really?
I did. I was at Taggerwood with Bernstein, and was lucky to be one of the fellows there to conduct on programs with him. And, of course, Bernstein wrote the music to Fancy Free, which we performed earlier this season, and, of course, West Side Story, which we performed a season ago. It's interesting, though, not many composers these days are what we would call ballet composers. Leo Delibes, going back to the 19th century, composed La Source, which we're performing in West Palm Beach this weekend. He very much focused on ballet. He composed in other genres as well. Tchaikovsky, of course, composed symphonies and operas, but he spent a good deal of his time composing 3 magnificent ballets, including Nutcracker. But these days, ballet is more of a fringe exercise, a fringe opportunity for composers. And while many grab the opportunity, it seems not to be as much of a focus for composers.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Nutcracker with Tchaikovsky. I was listening to that, and I said, how could he possibly have created that? How?
What an imagination. And yet, since we were just talking about Delibes, but Tchaikovsky made a most interesting comment. He was so enamored of Delibes' music, of works like Capella and Sylvia, and the music that came from La Source, that he said he would never have written Nutcracker if he had heard Delibes' music first. He was so humbled. Can you believe it?
No. I'm glad he didn't hear that. Have you composed anything?
I have composed music. In fact, I've composed 2 ballets, one called Cole, to the music of Cole Porter. It was premiered by Ballet Met back in the 80s. Wayne Soulant commissioned me for that. And then another work for Ballet Met, Butterfly, based on Puccini's Madame Butterfly. David Nixon commissioned me for that. So those are 2 works that I've written. I've written some other incidental music as well.
I would think so. Anyone with your talent, you just have to do more than, pardon the expression, wave your arms. I'm kidding. I mean, you are absolutely a prize, and I think that they're so happy and they're lucky and fortunate to have you. And I certainly, now that I know who you are, I'm going to go and know, of course, unfortunately, you're all down, so low in the pit, but sometimes they let you stand up right at the beginning.
I'd rather look at the dancers than our people, too, so it works this way. But, if we have just a minute more, Anita, I don't know if you do or not, but for our last program of the season, Program 4, we are so excited about A Midsummer Night's Dream. Lourdes has brought George Balanchine's original choreography from the original production in New York to us. This will be a company premiere. It'll be thrilling. It's gorgeous music and wonderful dance. But she has added to that original costumes and sets by South Florida's own wonderful artist, Michelle Ocadona. and we'll have a dramaturg for dramatic direction, Terrell Alvin McCraney. This will be Midsummer Night's Dream as you have never imagined it, a gala production with a very South Florida bent to the look of the ballet. And that closes our season in West Palm Beach, April 1st through 3rd. I hope folks will especially come out for that magnificent production.
Oh, absolutely. And in the time we do have left, I just want to say that to see the ballet at the Broward Center and to see, which is beautiful. I mean, the Kravis is beautiful, but so is the Broward Center. And to see it at the Arch, I mean, it just doesn't get better. I mean, I lived here so long and we didn't have these places. In fact, up in West Palm, there was something they called the Leaky Teepee. It was just this large arena. Yes, sometimes it would rain in. And we had Pavarotti singing there. I mean, it was so sad that we didn't have it, but some people just step up, to what's needed, and here we have it. Voila, we're all set.
Well, it is quite a schedule. It's a great schedule, and our company is known as the only major company in the U.S. that has three main homes, and travel to each, with each program with a full weekend of performances. Quite a feather in the caps for our company, I believe.
Well, Gary Sheldon, you're great. I was so thrilled to know that you were going to be I was going to get to interview you, the principal conductor of the Miami City Ballet. It has just been so joyful, and I can't wait to see the ballet.
Well, thanks, Nita. Can't wait to hear you and see you too at that time.
All right, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.